words have almost the power of God. That's why you never want to be lazy in language. Our ability to speak, our ability to frame words into such a way that we create images and pictures, help someone to understand, help someone to become educated, help someone to see what couldn't see before. And here's what human words can create: the light of insight. Human words can do that. It's called the unseen magic. Let's say someone cannot see how they can possibly be successful, and you come along and tell them your testimonial, choosing the best words you can. And when you finish, here's what they say: now I can see. Before you got here, I was blind. Before you got here, I was in the dark. Now that you've talked to me, I'm beginning to see. It's beginning to dawn on me. The lights are going on. It can be the beginning of a whole brand new life when the lights go on. It is so powerful. Human beings have the unique ability by language. That's some of the greatest gifts you can bestow. Helping people to see. That's one of the greatest gifts. Words are so powerful if they're framed right. This is a craft. Don't get lazy in learning this craft, because it'll serve you so well at home. It'll serve you so well in the marketplace. It'll serve you so well in your career and making your fortune. This craft of communication. Be aware of your feelings. Be aware of your emotions. And as that experience grows, now when you get ready to talk, you've got the blend of knowledge and the blend of feelings to put into your conversation. And that's what creates the power. Here's what's really powerful: words loaded with emotion. See, that's what's unbelievably powerful. Because people primarily buy from emotion and not from logic. Most of our decisions are emotional. Here's how much logic we need. Enough logic to justify an emotional decision. Emotions. We go for the emotion. Look at Hitler and his ability to preach. Look at Stalin and his ability to preach. Lenin, as wrong as they were, they believed it with all of their heart. Disastrous results, but they put everything they had into it. The emotional content was unbelievable, powerful. Yes, in an evil direction, but it can also be used for a good direction. This intensity, strength, power, emotion. Feelings and emotions changes the whole outcome of communication. Words with strong feeling change the meaning. Words can have power if they're loaded with emotion and belief and courage, love, understanding, awareness, sympathy, concern, being touched by somebody. If you put more of that into what you say, it'll have a more incredible effect. Here's the combination: well-chosen words mixed with measured emotion. Meaning, not too much power for a minor point. The actor on the stage or in the movies, in giving a performance, has to learn this craft of the right amount of emotion with the dialogue and the words that are to be spoken. It can be so powerful if it's measured well. See, if you had a powerful point and a little bit of emotion, that wouldn't make sense. Nobody would get it. So here's the key. Make a big deal out of a big deal, and then smaller emotional content on a little minor deal. That's an art. That's a craft. Adjust your style to fit the occasion and the emotional content so that it works, so that it makes sense. That when you burst on the scene, it's called for. The point is called for, that much emotion. You've got to be like a surgeon. We expect the doctor not to attack the patient, but we expect the doctor to attack the disease, to attack the problem, to make the operation successful, save the patient, destroy the disease. So here's what we expect a doctor to be: very professional. So you can't be reckless here now, going after the problem when it seems like you're going after the person. This is important stuff here, because a lot of people really get destroyed here by not being careful like a surgeon. Matters of the heart are delicate. Some people go after matters of the heart with a hatchet, right? Too severe. They're not careful enough to handle the problem, to go after the problem. But the key is to save the patient. Here's one of the best ways to attack a problem, and that's to confess you've got it or that you've had it. Say, Mary, the reason I'm talking to you about this is I'm telling you I've been through it, and I made some wrong decisions, and let me tell you what it carved out of my life that I'll never get back. One of the best illustrations is to use yourself. Say, John, I want you out of this ditch because I remember when I was in the ditch and stayed a little too long. You can't imagine what it cost me to keep putting off the decision, keep putting off the decision. I'm telling you, I've got some regret, a little bit regret till this day. Don't let that happen to you. Use yourself. One of the best illustrations is yourself. If you're getting on somebody's case, say, hey, I remember somebody got on my case and saved the day. If that person hadn't come along, got on my case, told it like it was, give it to me straight, I'm telling you, I'd have been lost, I'd have been gone, wouldn't be here to talk to you. So listen to me from my own experience. See, that kind of communication is so valuable. Because if you don't do that, you can do more damage than good. Words not only give life, words kill. With words, you can kill someone's incentive. You can kill someone's dignity. You can either give life or take life by the words you use. So you got to be very careful now with this emotional power. You got to use it very wisely. You got to pick up the emotional signals, how you feel, and make sure you understand other people's problems and difficulties. When someone has a problem, you recognize it. You say, John, I can understand how that feels. I've been there. Understanding, sympathy, awareness, sincerity, excitement, being positive. Those are all the elements. All of us have an audience, whether it's the audience across the backyard fence or a community audience or the audience of your family. If you're in sales, it's your clients. If you're in business, it's the business community. All of us have an audience. The key is to know what's happening. What you don't want to do is turn off a big chunk of your audience unduly. Study your audience, whoever your audience may be. Read the effect you're having when you communicate. See, that's just major. Look in their eyes, look in their face. Analyze what's going on between you and whoever you're talking to, another person. Whether it's a business conversation or a social conversation, you've got to be keenly aware of what's happening to whoever you're communicating with. I used to have a challenge on reading my audience. I was so absorbed in my notes, it took me a while, right, to look up from my notes to see what was happening. What's going on up here? What's going on back over here? Especially now with everything moving so fast. You know, people haven't got much time to spend much time. So you've got to get it said. You've got to get it told in a fairly short period of time now because life is moving so fast. If you want to be effective in communication, you've got to be brief. On any one point, you can't linger long. I used to tell long stories. I just drug them out too long. People get weary. Because I got a good disclosure for you. The human attention span is short. You just got to practice being brief. Short. Attention span is short. The better you get at communication, the more you can say things in fewer words. It doesn't take 10 minutes. In a minute or two, you've said it. In 15 minutes, you've said it. It used to take you a couple of hours. You get to where you can compact. Once you're really good at your own language, you can compact an idea into a shorter period of time. You have to be a good listener. If you want to communicate well with someone, let them talk. Isn't that true, though? We've all got about 16 waking hours. Practice listening those 16 hours. And I say practice listening because listening isn't easy. But if you will practice listening the 16 hours you're awake, sure enough, from surprising sources comes great ideas. Mr. Shope asked me a very keen question when I was around him in those early days, age 25. His question on this particular day was, Mr. Rohn, how do you affect other people? I said, I haven't given that much thought. He said, that's obvious. Whatever he had to say, I was willing to tolerate it because I knew I had a lot of room to grow and had a lot of changes to make. But how do you affect other people? It's just a major question. Develop an interest in two primary things, life and people. Most people want to make it, but they don't have that interest, that keen interest in what's going on around them. So if you really want to develop this reservoir of information for future conversations, you've got to be fascinated with life, fascinated with stories, fascinated with human behavior. Why do people act like they act? Why do they do what they do? Now also be interested and fascinated with your own life. How come I act like I act? Why do I always do this? Why do I feel this way? See, that kind of fascination will start helping you to gather up the information for good communication. As you let all of life affect you, so it affects your conversation. So it affects your communication. So people have this incredible sense that there's a great deal about you and your sensitivity and your interest and your fascination with life that makes life uniquely worthwhile for you. And I'll tell you what, it'll show up in your conversation. It'll show up in your feelings. It'll show up in your ability to reach people. Don't be afraid of it. Use it. Develop it. So that you'll have this working knowledge, this depth of awareness, so that when you get ready to talk, there'll be all this substance there waiting to back up whatever you have to say. And that's what creates the power. Communicating with other people is important. Exchanging ideas is important. Getting our feelings across is important. And if you treat it casually, sure enough, you just won't be much better at it a year from now, 2 years from now than you are today. I was clumsy when I started. To get better at something, you just have to go do it. Go do it. And then just practice it. Get good at it. Get better at it. As clumsy as it might be to start. Start a better program of better communication, saying it better, saying it better. Usually when we introduce somebody, the introduction's usually full of so whats. Usually an introduction, you have to give your list of credits. But when somebody gets through with he's president of this and vice president of this, and he's got several companies, corporations, does business around the world, those are pretty well so whats. See, so what puts up the barrier instead of building a bridge. It blocks this flow of communication. Mr. Schoaf gave me a little counsel on this. Don't try to impress, he said. Rather, learn to express. You want something that makes you real, something that makes you a person that someone would desire to talk to. Sometimes those first few seconds, sometimes that first minute is just so important to establishing rapport, establishing contact. Somebody once said, you never have a second chance to make a first impression. So sometimes how those opening seconds go is very important. But that's identification. Getting acquainted. In the identification process, we use this little mental phrase. We want somebody to say, me too. Say, well, here's what happened to me. Somebody says, well, me too. Here's how I felt. Someone says, I understand how that feels. Me too. My little story about meeting the little Girl Scout. That's identification story. She gives me this unique presentation. Asked me if I want to buy, and I wanted to, but I didn't have $2. Somebody says, I know how that feels. I know what that's like. I've been caught without any money. I know how embarrassing that is. See, that's an identification story. And I say, to this day, I can remember the pain. Somebody says, I've had some of that pain too. I know what that's like. All of that is identification. And you just learn to do that, trying to find something you have in common with someone else. But that's always a challenge. And every person and every audience is a brand new challenge. Every time you talk with somebody, it's a brand new challenge to identify. Now, in the identification process, make sure, if you tell little stories about yourself in identifying, make sure that they're accurate stories. You don't want a lack of credibility to creep into your communication. If you're giving testimony in a trial, if they catch you in one lie, guess what they do with the rest of your testimony? They throw it all away. How can we trust you? You say, well, this is the only time I lied. Hey, how can we trust that? Don't let lies taint your testimony. You may not harm someone else, particularly with lies and exaggeration, but the greatest harm will come to yourself. We hope someone will be both truthful and sincere, but we don't mistake sincerity for truth. To be sincere, it's got to be true. You just can't come up with sincerity telling an erroneous story. Now, you might make it sound sincere, but sure enough, someday it'll come back to haunt you. Almost everybody wants the feeling from someone else that you're not playing games with me, that you're really disclosing to me your true feelings, your true awareness, what's going on in your life and your heart and your soul and your mind. So you just got to be sincere. Tell the truth. You know, when we get a little older, we have these tricky ways of looking like we're interested when we're really not. And if you want to be a good communicator, you just got to pick up some of those signals. Sometimes this is a bit tricky, because in good communication, you cannot mistake courtesy for interest. Sometimes people will be courteous, but that doesn't mean they're interested. Now, if you mistake their courtesy for their interest, now, see, you've lost the hold on good communication. Communication is both words and emotion. Too much is too much, really, of anything. You can talk somebody into buying, keep on talking, finally talk them out of buying. See, if you walk into the showroom of a new car dealer, right, and the salesman has got you, he doesn't give you all the facts. There's probably a 5,000 facts about an automobile, but you don't need all 5,000 facts to make a decision. Just about a half dozen facts is about all you need. What does it cost, and is it safe, and is it reliable, and does it have good gas mileage, and how about the style and the resale value, right? There's only about a half a dozen things to make up your mind. So you don't need all the facts, because then you'll destroy what you've set up as a good presentation. Just enough so that it makes sense. Now, some things you don't need to completely understand, just so that it makes sense. Sometimes a company will sit down before they launch the company and say, here's the code, here's how we're going to do business, here's what we're going to be known for. We're not going to be tempted into doing this and this and this because that's not the reputation we want to build. Here's how we're going to do it. That's not a bad idea for your personal life. Here's what I want to be known for. I certainly don't want this reputation. This is not a bad idea to just someday sit down and sort of say, what is my code? How do I want to appear in the marketplace? What's the principles I'm going to live by and the code I'm going to operate from? This is part of personal development. Your personal behavior in the marketplace. Not just what you know and what you've learned, ready now to serve in product or service, but a big share of your future success, both economically and every other way, is going to lie in your own behavior. And here's another place where you can use your journal and just start toying with some ideas on how to put into language how you intend to function in your business. Here's what I want to be known for. Here's the reputation I want to develop. Here's the kind of service I want to render. Here's how I want to grow. I want to be known for these principles. Put together a list of the principles by which you're going to function and operate. It's not a bad idea to write it out for your business. Also write it out for your life. Things I will do, things I will not do, things I want to be known for. There's magic in a smile. There's magic in a handshake. There's magic in human contact. Good communication takes conscious preparation. Now, if you've got a speech to make, or you're going to have a family council, or you're going to get together with somebody, and you've got something important you're going to have to get across, get ready for it. And sometimes getting ready is a matter of several days of taking some time throughout the day to get ready to get ready. It is said that for every hour of public presentation, you need many days of conscious preparation. And the same is true of personal conversation. Preparation is the key. Not just wait, and then try to quickly repair, like we used to do cramming for the exam, right? And we put it off, and we played baseball, and we did all this stuff. And now comes the night before, or a couple of nights before, and we're frantically trying to get ready to see if we can pass the test. Preparation is the key to good communication. If you're going to talk with somebody, we all need to develop a sort of a quick mindset of getting ready to talk to somebody. Putting it in gear, being conscious, being aware. That's called getting ready. If there's one skill to develop as well as any other, this is probably one of the major ones. Communication. Communication starts with you. Your world begins with you. This is not to be self-centered, but your world is around you, your own consciousness and your own awareness. So good communication starts with an awareness that, first of all, to get a good communication going with anybody, it's got to start with some substance on your part. Once you understand that all of it starts with you, now you can start making some incredible progress. You've got to have it before you can speak it, before you can share it. When you speak, you want to speak from something that's there, an awareness that's there, a feeling that's there. We all need to be consciously aware every day of gathering up the ideas, the inspiration, the feelings that we're going to use for future communication, and to create this foundation or this reservoir or this deposit or this account from which you can talk. It's like, first of all, making deposits. You can't withdraw anything till you put something in. Here's what the ultimate goal is in communication, is to persuade, not just to present. There were two great orators of antiquity. One was Cicero. He was Roman. The other one was Demosthenes. He was Greek. And they were both great orators, great speakers. But it was said of Cicero, when he spoke, everybody said, "What a great speech." It was said of Demosthenes, when he spoke, everybody said, "Let us march." And that's the difference between presentation and persuasion. Mr. Schoaf got me involved in sales first. He got me involved in home building and land development and manufacturing and all kinds of things. Shoaff was an entrepreneur. He had a lot of tips. So I got this incredible education in sales. But he gave me this, how to make a good presentation, and I got pretty good at it. In fact, I used to hear people say, hey, you got to be one of the world's great salesmen. I thought, wow, the man has taught me well. Somebody else would say, hey, I've heard them all. You got to be one of the best. I thought, I've got it made. And then one day, the awful truth dawned on me. I said, wait a minute, something's wrong. If I'm one of the world's great salesmen, how come they ain't buying? I was getting faked out. See, I was being congratulated for my presentation. I had yet to master the art of persuasion. So there's a difference between presentation and persuasion. That's why education is so important. That's why forever learning is so important. Keep learning the rest of your life. Keep expanding your vocabulary all of your life so that your ability to comprehend widens and your ability to translate and speak widens.